Hello, good to have you back again. A dramatic showdown unfolded in Nigerian Senate as lawmakers moved to block an arrest threat issued against former Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPC) Group Chief Executive Officer Mele, even as questions surrounding an alleged 210 trillion naira discrepancy continue to dominate national attention. The controversy has now evolved beyond financial accountability into a wider debate about the powers of Senate committees, legislative oversight, and the limits of parliamentary authority. At the center of the dispute is an alleged 210 trillion naira discrepancy flagged in reports covering the operations of NNPC between 2017 and 2023. The matter first gained public attention in 2025 after concerns were raised over figures contained in the company's audited financial statement. Nearly a year later, the issue remains unresolved, with lawmakers demanding explanations and accountability. Tensions escalated earlier this week when the Senate Committee on Public Accounts threatened to issue a warrant for the arrest of former NNPC Chief Mele after he allegedly failed to honor several invitations to appear before the committee. The committee wanted Yeri to provide answers regarding the alleged discrepancy and explain issues raised in reports submitted by the Auditor General of the Federation. However, the situation took a dramatic turn during Thursday's plenary session when the Senate itself stepped in and overruled the committee's decision. The Senate ruled that no committee has the authority to independently issue a warrant affecting the liberty of any citizen without approval from the Senate President. The resolution was announced by Senate President Godswill Akpabio after lawmakers adopted the position through a voice vote. The decision effectively nullified the threat of arrest against Nyari and established a clear directive that Senate committees must obtain approval from the Senate President before taking similar actions in the future. Leading the argument against the committee's action was Senate Leader Opeyemi Bamidele. Raising the matter on the Senate floor, Bamidele argued that legislative committees must operate within constitutional limits and avoid actions that could undermine the principles of due process and fair hearing. According to him, the power to authorize measures affecting an individual's freedom is an extraordinary responsibility that must be exercised carefully and strictly according to the law. He emphasized that legislative investigations are designed to support oversight, accountability, and lawmaking, not to replace the functions of criminals or criminal prosecution agencies. Bamidele also expressed concern about comments made during the committee's proceedings. One remark in particular drew attention. During the heated hearing, Senator Adams Oshomole repeatedly described some NNPC officials as criminals and thieves. The Senate leader warned that such statements could damage Nigeria's image internationally, particularly given the strategic role of the national oil company in attracting investment and managing critical energy resources. He argued that lawmakers should avoid labeling individuals as criminals unless they have been found guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction. For Bamidele, protecting the integrity of legislative investigations requires respecting the constitutional principle that every citizen remains innocent until proven guilty. His position received broad support from senators, leading to the adoption of the resolution withdrawing the arrest threat. But the debate did not end there. Senator Adams Oshomole rose to defend both the committee's intentions and his own controversial remarks. The former Edo State governor acknowledged that the committee lacked the power to directly issue an arrest warrant. However, he explained that the committee's intention was to recommend such action to the Senate President, who possesses the authority to act on request. Oshomole also defended his emotional reaction during the hearing. According to him, the committee members felt provoked by attacks directed at the Senate and its leadership. He argued that lawmakers have a responsibility to defend the institution when they believe its integrity is being challenged. The senator insisted that his comments were made in the heat of the moment and reflected frustration over the seriousness of the allegations surrounding the missing funds. He maintained that the Senate cannot ignore questions involving such a massive amount of money. According to Oshomole, lawmakers have a duty to ensure accountability regardless of the influence or status of those involved. The senator further appealed to the Senate president not to publicly suggest that committee members were ignorant of parliamentary procedures. He insisted that lawmakers understand the rules and acted within what they believed were acceptable legislative processes. Meanwhile, the larger issue remains unresolved. The alleged 210 trillion naira discrepancy continues to generate public interest and political debate. The figure itself is staggering, far exceeding the budgets of many African countries and representing one of the most significant financial controversies to emerge in recent years. For many Nigerians, the key question is no longer whether a committee can issue an arrest threat, but whether the concerns surrounding the alleged discrepancy will ultimately receive clear answers. The Senate intervention may have settled a procedural dispute, but it has not resolved the underlying concerns that sparked the investigation. As lawmakers continue their oversight responsibilities, pressure is likely to remain on NNPC officials past and present to explain the figures and address questions raised by auditors. The controversy is also expected to fuel broader conversations about transparency, accountability, and financial management within Nigeria's oil sector. With public scrutiny growing and political tensions rising, the demand for answers is unlikely to fade anytime soon. So, to you out there, what do you think? Was the Senate right to withdraw the arrest threat against Melenyery, or should lawmakers have a tougher stance over the alleged 210 trillion naira discrepancy? Thank you so much for being with us once again. See you soon. My name is Emerald Onofe.